The third tip that I want you to take when it comes to studying the accounting standards will be to spend time to understand the principles that underlie the accounting standards. Listen, none of the accounting standard can be considered to be difficult. It's just that people are not really paying attention to the principles in respect of the standards. Like what I said a moment ago in respect of the initial measurement of an asset. The rule is that the initial measurement of an asset shall be the purchases cost plus all other directly attributable costs incurred in bringing the asset to its present use. Now that is the general principle, but what is the breakdown of that principle? That initial cost will include issues like if we bought the asset, then the purchases price of the asset. If we were given any trade discount, we have to less that trade discount. If we paid any expert, we have to add that into it. If the asset requires installation, the installation cost will be included. If we require some future payments to be made as a result of this asset that we have bought, that we are installing, then according to IAS 37, we must get the initial measurement and add it to the initial cost of the asset. If we borrowed money to acquire or manufacture the asset, then the interest element during the period of constructing the asset must be capitalized or included in the initial cost of the asset. These are principles, they will never change. So when you pick the accounting standards, you have to understand the principle. And it is something I really pound literally into my students. And I'm like, listen, the accounting standards, it's about principles. And when you see a question before you, you are just going to apply the principles. So sometimes what people do is to rather be solving questions. Yes, we will come to solving questions, but if you don't understand the principles, you cannot solve the question. So you need to get your foundation right, then you can approach a question. Let's say you take IFRS 15, revenue from contract with customers. What is the fundamental principle when it comes to revenue from contract with customers? The rule is simple, that we recognize revenue when a performance obligation is satisfied. In other words, we can only recognize revenue only when we have done the job and the customer is satisfied. Now, so if the customer pays us, we have received the money but have not done the job, can we recognize revenue? No. That will be recognized as a deferred income. It's a liability on the face of the statement of financial position. This is a principle you must know about it. Another principle about IFRS 15 is that if the performance obligation, what the entity will provide to the customer for the consideration being received from the customer is more than one, then it is important we allocate the transaction price to the performance obligation using the stand-alone prices. This is a principle. It does not change. You have to understand it. And this is my third tip, and it is one of the important steps that you have to understand. Because you see, if you fail the financial reporting examination, it's because you don't understand the principles. It's because you don't just get the principles. That's it. So when you pick any accounting standard, so what I tell my students is this: you can have a flashcard, you can have a notepad, you can have something that you write the principles on it. You write the principles on it. And that is the next point, which is your studying style, and I'll come there in a sec. But you have to understand the principles. Because when you see any question and you are unable to solve the question, it is not that the question is difficult. It is that you don't understand the principle. Then I have had a couple of students who also tell me, Nhyira, I understand. I mean, when you explain the thing, I get it. But when I see a question I'm not able to solve, then I'm like, no, you don't understand the principle. Because when I give assignments and they screw up the assignment, now we are solving the question, then I refer to the principle, then we apply the principle, then they are like, how? I said, yes, because you did not understand the principles. So you have to understand the principles underlining each of the accounting standards. That is my third tip on how you study the accounting standards to ensure that you pass the examination.